Hi, this is Marcus, and we're going to be talking about an artist who died 30 years ago as of January the 23rd this year, and that's Salvador Dali. This episode may not be suitable for younger children, and you can head over to the website modernartisrubbish.com where you can see links to all the images that we discuss in the show.
Modern art is rubbish. Juxtapose. Didactic. Modern art is rubbish. Modern art is rubbish podcast.
Yeah, hello and welcome to Modern Art is Rubbish, episode number 29.
Whoa!
Yeah, I remember that.
Great French speaking, Marcus.
Yes, I remembered my 20s. So today, Tom, after the last pod, Tom, I got a bit tired, as you do. You know, you've done all the research and everything, and I had no ideas what we were going to do for this episode until I went to sleep.
No.
Yeah, and I was visited by an artist who said, "You must do me." Well, he actually said, "You must do me," like this. And can you guess who it was?
Well, I know who it was. You've already told me.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right, I have. Oh, that was... Pretend you don't know.
Oh, right, yeah.
Who
would talk... Can you do the impression again?
You must do me! That's as good as it gets.
I didn't know Ross Abbott was an artist.
Russ Abbott.
Ross Abbott.
Ross Abbott. You combine Bob Ross and Russ Abbott to make...
Who's Bob Ross?
Do not say that on an art podcast ever again. Who's Bob Ross?
Yeah, but...
Bob Ross, the man with the really big hair. He's got like big...
I take it he's an artist.
He's dead. Bob Ross is the master of painting.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
He's the master of instruction, how to paint.
Right, yeah.
He could do landscapes like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So his name was Bob Ross Abbott.
Bob Ross. We should do a Bob Ross special. He's a hero of art.
Oh, right. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, his hair sounds good.
Yeah, his hair is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't guessed who it was then?
All right, it's Dali.
My impression was that good, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I was thinking about, Dali, he's a showman, isn't he? He was famous for his dreamscapes and, featured his anxieties and fears in his paintings.
Yeah, and you never quite pick up a phone the same after seeing Dali works.
No, because he
just that phone anxiety. Have you got? Are you picking up a scorpion?
Yeah. Also, I think it's because phones. He thought they were quite sexy.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it takes all sorts, I suppose.
Yeah, not my iPhone 4S. Apparently, that's not sexy.
Oh right, yeah.
I showed that to my niece. She saw my iPhone 4S and she said, "When did you get that?" 2005. Not with that voice, of course. So, have you had any dreams at all that sort of like Dali-esque surrealist dreams?
Well, there's not many dreams I've had that I remember in the morning or that stay with me, but I have had one with that had an insect in a big cage.
Yeah, what was
it was a
doing?
bit weird. It was just in a cage, and I was, I don't know, I was in front of it. I was scared in the dream.
Yeah,
it was a scary dream.
Dali
paintings scary.
Yes,
yeah,
they can be scary and sexy and strange.
It was definitely strange, weird.
Strange juxtaposed images and objects.
Yeah, so does he paint from his own dreams? Is that what he did?
Yes, he did. I had a dream which I want to tell you about as well.
Okay, go on then. Yeah, Have you painted it?
No, I haven't. I sound like Did I sound a bit like Martin Luther King there?
No, I didn't think that at all.
Yeah. So, well, I actually had what was called lucid dreams. I had a lucid dream.
Go on, explain to me.
Right, it's where you know that you're dreaming and you can control things within the dream. And I was in a shop, and I noticed that the time. I looked at the clock and I thought, oh, it's like 8:10 or something in the shop. And then I looked away and the clock had changed time, and that's how I knew I was dreaming. Also that, and the fact that the boxes of cereal, like there was a Kellogg's cornflakes box that was about 4 foot, 3 foot tall. Wow,
that is quite a few kilograms of cornflakes.
Yeah. That's just my dream. So I noticed outside there was some kids that were behaving quite badly, and I thought, oh, this is not on. And I thought, I'm in a dream. Now, I'd never do this in real life, and I don't advocate violence, but because I was in a dream, I went out and I punched one of them.
You punched a child?
No, yeah, well, they were about 16 and they're out of order and they were dreaming. I was dreaming, yeah. In the dream. So anyway, they obviously behaved after that, and I went back in and I noticed I was going to start to wake up.
Yeah.
So what you do when you're in a dream, if you don't want to wake up, you spin round.
Whoa.
And that actually extends the dream if you spin in your dream.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah, so just remember that for you listening, if you want to stay in your dream longer, just start spinning around. I know what you're hoping, aren't you? You would like me to start doing a little bit of a biog.
Of your dreams?
No, of Dali.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. Come on, let's hear the biog.
Yeah, well, so Dali was born in 1904, and he was actually born in sort of northeastern Spain, and his dad was a lawyer.
Figueres, he was
born. And his father was quite strict, and he was a lawyer, and he was very close to his mother. And he was quite a shy and nervous child. Now the thing is with Dali, it's always quite hard to tell what's truth and what's not, because a lot of the stuff he said was just pure lies. Sometimes he'd tell the truth, sometimes he'd tell half truths.
It's quite surreal, isn't it?
Yeah. But apparently there's something I can confirm. His friends said that he was, this is a little strange Dali fact, he was terrified of grasshoppers.
Well, who isn't?
Absolutely, she said literally terrified of them. And the grasshoppers actually do appear in some of his paintings. So,
ooh, gives me shivers.
And of course, he was like when he was younger, he was a really, really gifted artist. The thing is just as for those of you that listen to our Vincent van Gogh podcast, there was a little baby Vincent that died before he was born, and just the same as Vincent van Gogh, there was a perfect little baby Dali that was born before Salvador. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. So he had a baby brother that died before he was born, and they named him the same name, same
Dali.
as Van Gogh.
Yeah.
But Dali's parents told him that he was the reincarnation of his baby dead brother.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. So that's quite nice, isn't it, really? You like all the pain of like losing a family member, it kind of cancels it out somewhat if you're told that as a youngster, does it? Do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is
interesting psychology.
The shadow of his brother lived with him lived with him for all his life. His brother was always there, and actually at some point he kind of thought that he became his brother, even thought he was his brother.
Well, he was told that. So
yeah.
why wouldn't you? Like some part of your psyche, you'd attach yourself to that, wouldn't you? Yeah. Your
dead brother. I mean, and the thing is, he used to refer to him and his spirit as Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux were twins, and when Castor was killed, Pollux asked Zeus, as you do, just go and ask Zeus. to let him share his immortality with his twin to keep them together. So they were transformed into the constellation of Gemini.
Yeah, so that's quite deep.
Castor and Pollux comes from Greco-Roman mythology.
So we're talking about Greek mythology. He wasn't like a Christian or anything then, because he's Spanish, isn't he?
So what I've read, he believed in God, in a God, but he didn't believe in in his sort of religion, and he kind of, a lot of time he rallied against everything. He used to get angry and sort of like fight a lot of things, and he wasn't anti-religion, but he wasn't pro-religion. And he's made some religious paintings, but he kind of had I think a love-hate relationship with it.
Oh, right, yeah.
If that's the thing. I don't know, maybe that's because of his strict father, I don't know. But the painting that I'm looking at now, and we'll put full links onto the site so everyone can see it, was actually done in 1963, and it's called Portrait of His Dead Brother. And what's really interesting is it's a portrait that's been done in what was very popular at the time, pioneered by the artist Roy Lichtenstein, of a kind of like, it looks like a newsprint face on a Dali landscape. So it looks like a sort of close-up of a news-printed face, and what Dali's done is he's used the dots as in that would be there in newsprint to create a face of a young boy. Now, he's put that it's his brother, but I think it's just a face that he pulled from a newspaper, because his brother would have been about 2.5 when he died.
Yeah, it looks like a sort of young Adolf Hitler or something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Dali did a lot of Hitler images, and he was actually put on trial by the surrealists for having so many Hitler images, and he basically said, it's from my subconscious. I draw what I see. So, but Hitler's obviously came to him a lot in dreams. As a child, Dali spent a lot of time in a place called Cadaqués, which is quite near Figueres in the northeast part of Spain.
Catalonia.
Yeah, and it was by the sea, and it had a landscape dominated by rocks, and you can imagine, the young boy Dali sitting there and looking at these rocks, and these rocks would take on lots of different shapes. And I was looking at some photos of these rocks, and you see one shape of, one of the rocks clearly looks like a camel, and then another one looks like a rhinoceros. So you can imagine where he gets all these ideas for these strange shapes. And
nature.
Yeah, from nature, and again, he does these things where he takes clouds and sees double meanings in them. Have you ever done that? Set at clouds and looks and try to make shapes out of them.
I've seen a man in the moon.
What, in the clouds?
No, not in the clouds, but I've seen a face in the moon.
Oh, right, on the moon, yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of a similar sort of...
That's like that one from the old I think it's the 1920s film, quite that famous one.
Oh, right, yeah.
I saw one, was a flying saucer, but a perfect flying saucer, and it had all the windows.
What, in the clouds?
Unless it was a cloud flying saucer, it was literally like a perfect flying saucer with windows and everything, and the shape. I assume it was a cloud.
Yeah, because it's so annoying when you get your flying saucer and there's no windows on it. It's like, how are you supposed to see where you're going? You want to send it back to the company, don't you?
Yeah, I don't. Well, you would want a good view if you're going to fly and come all that way across the galaxy.
In a saucer.
Yeah. So you can imagine he sees all these extra images, these double images in the clouds and in the rocks. And this does creep into his art later on in life. And for example, in 1931, he painted a thing called Paranoid Village. And what happened was that Picasso sent him an image of an African village in the early 30s. And he looks at it, and what it is when you look at it on one side, it looks like a sort of an image of five people sitting in front of a kind of like an African home, an African hut in a desert landscape. And then when you turn it on its side, it's a face.
Right, yeah. Well, I looked at it straight away and I saw the face on its side. So when I first
So what does that
looked at
say about you, that you didn't see the African village first, you just saw the face?
Yeah, I had to look harder to see the people.
Yeah.
Does that mean that I'm a bit more off my head? A bit more surreal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That the subconscious thing and the idea of Dali is, his images are, some people can read things into things that aren't there. I think that's part of the thing, isn't it? Some people look at one thing and see one thing, and some people look at one thing and see another. I think that's something that crops up into a lot of his work.
Yeah.
So, in 1921, it has to be said that an event happened to the young Dali, which caused him a lot of upset. I don't know why.
So he would
this.
have been 16, 17,
Yeah,
1921.
16. His mum died of cancer, so he was left with his dad, and they had a kind of like a love-hate relationship. So that left him feeling very sort of vulnerable. And in 1922, his dad said, look, sent him to go to Madrid to study painting. Dali is was a very timid, shy person, and I think that's why his personality actually changed because of that. He became this flamboyant genius because to overcome his actual timid nature, he went the opposite.
Yeah, but he's going through puberty as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might, they're hard. The teenage years can be hard on a young painter.
But I love this idea that he got about creating his own myth, because he always said he was a genius. I don't know, that was my Dali, that wasn't very good. But anyway, he said if you play a genius, you'll become one. So I think there was that idea of play and trying to create this Dali persona. Interesting enough, him and his college friends formed a movement which was called the Sin Sombrerismo, which that's my Spanish accent there, but basically it means the without hats movement. That was quite revolutionary. Apparently, they in 1920s everyone wore hats in Madrid, and they decided to create a movement where no one wore hats.
Whoa. So what sort of reaction would that have got in 1920s Madrid?
I reckon people would have walked up and ruffled their hair. That's what I would have done. I don't know.
If you were in a dream and you saw people with hats, without hats in Madrid in the 1920s, you would have probably punched them in the head. Particularly if they were teenagers.
Are you suggesting that I'm violent in my dreams? That's a horrible thing to say, Saul.
So, but I mean, it's like, it doesn't seem like, looking back on this anti-hat movement, what were they called? Anti-hats?
They were called without hats. Yeah, it was like without hats.
Yeah, hashtag without hats.
Yeah.
They're not going to upset many people, are they? I mean, what is it not polite to not wear a hat? It's quite hot in Spain.
I don't know what I never looked into the consequences of non-hat wearing. I mean, it's interesting because it reminds me of this musician we know called Kevin Pearce. Good musician, actually, worth checking out. But during his time at junior schools, he staged a protest. Him and the other kids. I suppose it would have been 8 or something, 8 years old roughly, and they staged a protest of coats indoors. So apparently they weren't allowed to wear their coats indoors, but it was a bit cold in the classroom when they came in. They'd take the coats off before they went into the classroom.
Yeah.
So they staged a coats indoors protest.
So how did the protest manifest itself? They just put their coats on, did they?
Yeah, and I think they had placards, or they just marched around the playground saying coats indoors.
Coats indoors.
Coats indoors.
I want to go back and join Kevin Pearce on his protest.
I know, I feel solidarity. When he told me the story, I felt solidarity with him about that as well. I thought, yeah, coats indoors. It's great. It's kids taking power.
It's interesting. We've got all kids protesting in London at the moment. It's it's solidarity with the kids, isn't it?
Maybe it would be more green if everyone wore coats indoors though, because the heating would go down.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Coats indoors, coats indoors, coats indoors, coats indoors.
In 1926, he actually went to Paris because he wanted to meet.
So he's finished his studies in
Yeah,
Madrid.
yeah. Well, he actually left. Apparently, he felt that his tutors weren't good enough to teach him because he was too much of a genius.
Yes, fair enough.
Yeah. When you went to music college, did you?
I felt exactly the same.
You're not joking, are you? Yeah, so he met with Picasso, and basically Picasso described Dali as having a mind like an outboard motor. What was that? I was trying to think what that means.
An outboard motor. You see, we need to be boat people to understand. It's a boat thing, isn't it? An outboard motor. Isn't it just one of them motors that you pull a cord?
Yeah, and it goes.
Petrol,
and it goes in the water. Well, yeah, of course it goes in the water. How stupid is that? But like, do you have to jump start him? Do you have to jump start Dali?
Yeah, and once he's going though, he's away, and the police aren't going to catch him.
No,
because of that Dali mind.
Yeah, well, Dali has done controversial things as well, you know. So, and I don't know if the police did actually ever catch up with him.
All right, yeah. Good. I'm imagining a police chase across the water now with Dali's mind stuck in the water and Picasso pulling a string on him.
I think there's more involved. Something.
It was in Picasso's blue period, out in the Med.
Yeah. (1929) is another really important year. It's the year.
It's the year of 24-25 where he is now.
To quote Salvador Dali, there can be no gala with Dali. Now, Gala, she's far more than a muse. She was his sort of mentor. She helped him get ideas. She looked at his works, helped him to choose whether it was working or not. Although she never actually painted helped him paint anything. But she would hustle. She would get his work out there. And so I think, having looked at looked at Dali's biography and looked at it, it's actually true. You can't separate the two. She is central to his work. And he actually even said, it is mostly with your blood, Gala, that I paint my pictures. And also he said, I would polish Gala to make her shine, make her the happiest possible, caring for her more than myself, because without her it would all end. And even later, to say how much I think he did genuinely put her before himself. Later, when the relationship wasn't as close as it had been, he actually paid for her to have a mansion to stay at in Spain, where she could have her string of young lovers visit her. And if Dali wanted to visit her in his mansion, he'd actually have to apply for get written permission from her to attend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like he put her, in front of his own artwork.
Yes.
She was so important.
It should be Dali Gala, really. If we'd actually say they're actually almost like they are a duo, not a...
Yeah, Dali Gala, Gali or...
Gali.
Dala.
Dala. That sounds like an 80s band called Dana, which I don't... Why am I bringing up them? I really should not.
Scratch, edit.
Or Dana. He also, in 1929, he made a movie called Chien Andalou with his filmmaker friend Louis Buñuel.
Andalou?
The Andalusian Dog.
Oh, right, yeah.
Funny, it's a great film. It's a short surrealist film that doesn't actually seem to feature a dog. It's a compelling film, really good film, but it has a narrative that plays like a dream. Dali's in it and he plays a priest. And it's famous for its opening scene, and which you see this man, he's on his balcony, he's got a razor, and then you see the clouds, and then you see the razor, and then you see a woman, and then you see a close-up with the razor cutting across the eyeball. The eye, I don't know what the stuff is inside the eye. That sort of comes out. It's quite a famous scene from a film.
Is it a cumulus or something?
I don't know. Is that a cloud? Well, eye clouds. Yeah. Well, I had. Well, I didn't have an eye cloud. I had a. I've had like blobs in my eyes. Not blobs, blobs of blood. I got a vitreous hemorrhage whilst eating a really hot pizza.
Oh, Marcus, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I was watching Jonathan Ross and eating a really hot pizza, and my eye just went boop. And now I have synesthesia, so whenever I hear sounds that cause me alarm, I get a flash in my eye.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like really rubbish synesthesia.
Right, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this before, but it's clearly left a mark on me because I always wanted it. I always wanted to have like a Dali life, sort of like a really strange Dali moments, and so I know where I am. As well as the eyeball cutting scene, it's got things like there's another scene where a man's got a stick and he's prodding this hand with his long stick, and
it's Picasso.
Yeah, and there's two policemen are holding back these guys all in hats.
Yeah,
and they're surrounding him, they're so curious, and they're trying to get a closer look at the guy, and the police are holding him back. So that's one of the scenes in Chien Andalou. And also, there's another scene where you've got two grand pianos, and stuck between the lid of the grand piano and the piano bit itself is dead donkeys rotting with ants coming out of them, one of them.
Oh, right, yeah. So it's like the... normally you'd find dead elephants on a piano, wouldn't you?
So... I've had a few surreal surreal moments. Now I have to I'm going to do a quote here. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, surreal movements is something you might have after a pizza and
Dali once said, "I don't do drugs. I am drugs." So I was sober when I viewed this, but when I was staying in Colchester, I lived near a river, and I remember looking out of the flat. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this Asian guy in a white suit with aviator sunglasses walking backwards.
There's something quite Dali about an Asian guy in a white suit. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. He has an Arabic sort of flair, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, yes, he looked very cool, and I thought, what's going on here? I couldn't work it out. There was no film crew or anything, and he was just walking backwards along the river. So I forgot about it, and I thought, I thought I was still dreaming. And then the next day, I looked out the window, and I saw an English woman walking backwards in just a normal, like, flowery, summery dress, and I thought, that's curious. That's just like the Asian guy I saw yesterday walking backwards. About a minute later, the Asian guy followed her walking backwards.
Whoa, that is surreal. So it was from a window in your flat.
Yes,
where you were staying. So did you find out what was going on with the backwards?
No, and
it's quite unusual to see people walking backwards.
No one believes me. I don't believe it, but I did see it, and I've spoke to my brother who I was sharing a flat with, and he accepts it was true, I think, but I don't know. I don't know why were they walking backwards. Did I see something? Did time suddenly run backwards?
People do walk backwards. Like I say, you don't often see it. It is a thing.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe it was kind of some dodgy ground under there. Maybe there was a few melting iPhones. They had to tread carefully backwards over them.
Well, yeah, you would if you're confronted with Dali kind of obstacles, you're going to have to approach it in a Dali way.
Yeah, very true.
In the early 30s, Dali created a thing which he called his paranoid critical method. Right, it's a style of painting, and it's also, he wrote about it as well, and he was very influenced by Sigmund Freud, who was, at the time, he was doing pioneering research into the unconscious mind. Dali expressed this in paintings. He would create paintings featuring images drawn deep from his subconscious, such as elephants, drawers, and they would represent certain things. Like, for instance, he'd have ants. There's a lot of ants in Dali paintings. As a child, he saw an insect that had been eaten by ants, and just the shell was left of this little insect, and the ants were crawling all over it. The ants are featured quite heavily in a lot of his works. I think perhaps they might symbolise sort of powerlessness and death, and some people have said it represents a sort of overwhelming sexual desire.
Yeah, so that's going back to Freud's work in the 1930s.
Yeah. I wonder if it just meant ants in your pants. Well, that's not sexy, is it? What's ants in your pants? Ants in your pants is... it's not the same. That's not overwhelmingly sexy, Eminem. Well, maybe some people find it overwhelmingly sexy, having ants in their pants.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's look back to the customer service.
Ooh, ants in the pants? Is that what you like, sir?
Another thing that features quite a lot in his works, there's a lot of crutches in his work, a lot of wooden crutches. Basically, for him, I think it represented sort of death and resurrection, and it supported the flaccid, because Dali always felt quite impotent, and he referred to himself as the grand masturbator. He only ever slept with his wife Gala in his entire life, and apparently he was quite a voyeuristic person. And I think his kind of sexuality and impotence, he felt a lot of that.
Yeah, and his deep subconscious.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of quite melted, quite sort of limp objects and flesh in Dali paintings, and a lot of times they're supported by crutches.
Oh,
so that's it. Yeah. If you talk about Dali, you have to talk about what is his most famous work, and that's called The Persistence of Memory, and he painted that in 1931. Now, this is a really quite a small painting, and it's in America, and basically what it is it's a picture of a landscape with rocks and sort of like by the beach, and again it looks like the landscape that he would have seen when he was a child in Cadaqués. What you've got a juxtaposition of hard and soft objects. In the middle ground there's like a tree, and there's a melting watch on the branch of a tree. They're pocket watches. In the foreground, it looks like there's a table and there's another melting watch, and then there's a pocket watch, and it's got ants crawling all over it. And then in the middle of the picture, there's what looks like a melted face, and it looks like it's Dali's melted face. And on top of his face, it's another pocket watch that's melting. It looks a bit like a saddle on a horse.
It's interesting. So you've got the ants there. You were talking about the ants from his childhood on the carcass, and it's on the ants are on the case, the carcass of the pocket watch case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's death and time, and the thing is that he did this after eating Camembert cheese.
No.
What's that? Have you had experiences with Camembert cheese then?
No, I haven't, but it's interesting. I like to know about substances that produce surreal incidents.
Yeah, I mean, and it does. I mean, I think you can see the sort of the melting of the cheeses. It does look. They do look a bit like melting cheese. It's quite interesting because it's called The Persistence of Memory, and around the time, I mean, the theories of Einstein's relativity and the theories of space-time.
Freud was doing wasn't he involved in the First World War? All the soldiers suffered with I can't remember what it's called, post-traumatic stress disorder. And wasn't Freud central to that?
Keep hitting the table.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about persistence of memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all related to this painting. Is that related to Freud as well? Because he was reading Freud. Was that?
Yes, it is. I mean, these images are drawn from the subconscious, but I think the actual message when I look at this one is about time melting, time not being constant, being there's a lot of, to me, I look at it and I think a lot of Melting Watches, a lot of insecurity. It's almost like the end of time. And, you know, he would have been aware of Einstein at the time and the theories.
Yeah, so what's Einstein's theory of relativity?
About space-time, about
Space-time,
time being
yeah.
relative, you know, depending on where you are and what position you are. So, yes, so you're looking at these and you're thinking, yeah, you've got melting time. And also, it's, I think as well, even today with the whole climate change thing, it's got another meaning because it's almost like time's running out.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like melting time. I'm sure that probably wasn't on his thoughts at the time. But again, there is that kind of sense that nothing's constant. It's quite an insecure painting, I think. When you look at it, it looks very insecure. You know? Yeah. And it's aware of the past of time. But amazingly, this shows how important Gala was. When she saw it, she said, no one will ever forget it.
Oh, right, yeah.
So she knew straight away.
Yeah, no, well, that's a poetic response to the persistence of memory.
Yeah, my mum said that when she saw my portrait of two Smurfs that I did in watercolour.
Was that when you were 4?
That's recently. No, she didn't say that. So, 1940, obviously, he's, as a lot of artists did, in 1940, he left, well, I think they left at various times, but left Europe because of World War II, and he went to America. Now, the thing is, he was already famous, and he'd already been featured on the cover of Time magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and of course, you know, he gets there and it's Americans are very receptive to kind of new styles of art, as they always have been. And so he made a lot of money there doing portraits, and he did a lot of his famous stunts as well. You know, a lot of people thought that Dali was all about the money, but I just think it was just money to him was like an oil for the Dali machinery.
So in like modern day, we say that about our old friend Damien, don't we? Damien Hirst. He's all about the money. So that's true, isn't it? That's what people say about him.
Yeah.
What he'd probably say about himself, maybe. So Dali was of that same sort of reputation at the time.
Yeah. This is a story that really sort of shows. I think there were lots of people that were driving him to say, like, get out, let's make money. And Dali was just going, oh, this is good, yeah, let's just do it, it's easy. Because in 1974, French customs apparently uncovered a shipment of 40,000 sheets of paper. And they looked at them and they were all just signed by Dali, but they were all blank. What he used to do was apparently he used to sign his prints before they were actually printed on, just to speed up the process. So some say, I've got to make 6 prints, Dali, can you just sign these? And then they go, dunk, 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 and then they go and put them in the printing thing. And then, of course, someone points out to him, you know, just by signing a piece of paper, it gave it a value of about $40. So what in the end happened was that people thought, oh yeah, I'll keep signing. So people encouraged him to keep signing. And apparently there's about 40,000 to 60,000 sheets that ended up with just Dali signatures on them.
Right, nothing else?
No. Whilst he was in America, Dali, you know, he was making a lot of money, but he also, fame was his thing, and he had a desire to break into Hollywood. So he actually got hired by Alfred Hitchcock, I don't know if you know this, to make a dream sequence. And what Hitchcock liked about Dali was that he felt that his way of looking at dreams was more real, because before then, whenever dreams had been portrayed in movies, it was all a bit vague and a bit out of focus and a bit wispy and foggy. Hitchcock thought, well, actually, Dali knows what dreamers are. They were, you know, they had hard edges. They were real physical objects.
Yeah.
Strange things. So he did that. So he actually created a piece, and I put a link on the website to the dream sequence from the movie Spellbound by Hitchcock for you to see. Yeah. And as well as that, he actually had talks with the Marx Brothers to make a Marx Brother movie. It was going to be called Giraffes on Horseback Salad.
Giraffes on Horseback Salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
whose title was that? That was the title of the Marx Brothers.
It was a Dali film. I mean, it's a really strange. I mean, it never got made, but it has now actually been made into a graphic novel. And I'll put details of that novel if anyone wants to have a look at it.
So you did work on it, but it was never produced?
No,
right?
I think Groucho didn't like the idea.
Oh, right, okay,
I mean, one of the things in the scene was, it's got here, a surrealist woman. The surrealist woman's feast recalls Roman decadence. The guests are seated around her bed, as if at a nightclub, So, and the food is all strangely covered, and nothing is the hue you'd think it is supposed to be. So it's kind of like a typical Dali.
Typical Dali Friday night.
And also, he nearly made a short with Disney, and that never actually came off. It was called Destino, but it has now finally been made, and it was made in 2002, and I'll put a link to that site as well. Dali did a lot of, had a few stages of paintings, but his key stages were the one we talked about, the critical method that we talked about earlier, and also he had one which was called nuclear mysticism.
Okay, so these are like movements he created in his own brain.
Yeah, I just think he was just trying different things and then decided to call them something afterwards. Probably.
Yeah, so it's about the creative process, I suppose. Yeah.
Have you had any musical periods?
Yeah, no, many. I get them monthly.
Oh yeah, we better not.
I used to play guitar. I used to play guitar religiously. It was like my breakfast, dinner, and I don't know, evening snack.
Yeah.
It was all my meals, but now I just play piano.
Oh.
Yeah, so like this is different. I mean, I've entered a different phase of my music writing.
Yeah, it's weird. Artistically, I have no. In fact, I'd say I have loads of different styles. I don't actually have a discernible style. Yeah, mini movements. Lots of mini movements.
Yeah.
So this one was called Nuclear Mysticism.
Okay.
And
you're not going to talk about your mini movements?
No.
It's quite relevant though for this point, isn't it? Yeah.
So. This picture I've selected to show the example of nuclear mysticism is called the Galetta of the Spheres. And Dali was, as we've said, was interested in also quantum theory and atomic science. And apparently he described the atom as his favourite food for thought. This portrait called the Galetta of the Spheres is a portrait of Gala, and it's broken up into a sort of like a matrix of spheres that are suspended in the air. And it kind of has a Renaissance feel about it. And the spheres represent atomic particles. We will put links on the site so you can check out the work. It's quite a cool image.
Yeah. Sort of, it makes me think of the universe.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's like the spheres are like planets or moons.
Yeah.
They do look like, because if you look closely at the spheres, I mean, you've given me a printout.
Yeah.
Like a small copy of it. You can see the lines on it that make them look planetary rather than atomic. Yeah. Like you were saying, they're atoms or whatever, but they look like planets, don't they? Yeah,
there's kind of got that feel of that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting image, and it's some, as I say, people need to see it to look at it. But he did quite a lot of those. If I'll be honest, I think some were more successful. I think some he was just regurgitating all ideas, because some of them look like some of his older paintings, but just made to look like they've been broken up into atoms.
All right, yeah, it is a bit like spots, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spots, dots.
Spots, dots.
Golly.
Now, Dali's influence is still obviously felt today. Some of the surrealism's influence is felt today. And Dali himself created a very famous surrealist object called the lobster telephone. It took an object. He took a phone, and he took a lobster, well, a resin lobster. This is, and he placed it on top of the phone receiver. So what you've got is an old style phone with a lobster stuck on top of the hand receiver.
He also plugged the wire into it, didn't he? Like it was the receiver.
Yes. So, I mean, the thing is that this again is quite common. A lot of surrealist objects did that, where they took two completely unrelated things and then brought them together. And to Dali, phones and lobsters, I don't know why, but lobsters had a sexual connotation. For instance, in one multimedia artwork, Dali dressed live nude models in seafood costumes, and he used lobsters to cover their regions. Their regions. I don't know. Their private regions.
Okay, and so did he then try and call the lobsters so they answered the phone and then took it away?
I hope not. But you can see you can see how Dali actually came up with this idea, because he was once asked about this, and he said, "I do not understand why, when asked for a grilled lobster in a restaurant, I am never served a cooked telephone. I do not understand why champagne is always chilled, and why, on the other hand, telephones, which are habitually so frightfully warm and disagreeably sticky to the touch, are not also put in silver buckets with crushed ice around them." I've thought that myself.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing about buckets of ice is they do carry an electrical current. You can.
Yeah. He also created jewellery. For example, he created surrealist jewellery. I mean, the one I'm looking at the moment is called Royal Heart, and it's made in 1953. It's actually crafted from pure gold, and it's actually encrusted with 46 rubies and 42 diamonds and 2 emeralds. And the ruby heart actually beats. Very tasteful. It's not very tasteful. It's horrible. Yeah.
It's as tasteful as our friend Damien Hirst.
Yeah. For the Love of God, which came out in 2007. Dali also he made furniture with a friend from England. He made, for instance, a sofa which looked like Mae West's lips, which you've seen, I believe, when you went to the Dali Museum.
I have, I have. Well, I showed you some photos I had, didn't I? Yeah, it's one of those, Yeah,
and what I like is, so he's taken the actress Mae West and created a sofa out of her lips. Now, the thing is, of course, if you think about it, if you see these lips, it's quite dark in a way, because if you sit, you're getting kind of like you're sinking into the mouth of Mae West.
Is that a bad place to sink?
I don't know. To end, I thought I want to give a flavour of some of the performances of Dali, and I call this the stunts of Dali.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Yeah. So, and the first one was called, it was called Cauliflower Car. He didn't name it Cauliflower Car, but it's involving a car and cauliflowers.
Okay, I'm imagining a massive cauliflower that drives.
Basically,
with a courgette as a steering wheel.
No. This is what he did. Was his performance was, he filled up a Rolls Royce with 500 kilos of cauliflowers, and he drove it from Spain to Paris.
Whoa.
And then he sort of he did a talk, and apparently the reason was that everything ends up in the cauliflower.
Okay.
That was his reason. It's very surreal.
Everything ends up in there.
Yeah.
So are we going to recreate it?
And then the diving talk. He did a diving talk once where he was due to go to London to do an international surrealist exhibition, and Dali was going to give a talk. And so to represent how it existed in the bottom of the sea of consciousness, he actually turned up in an old-fashioned diving suit. Now, the problem is you have to pump air. I don't know if you know, but you have to pump air into these old diving suits. But no one was pumping air. So he nearly collapsed in this hot, airless suit.
Yeah.
And he had to be rescued by someone who located a spanner and managed to undo it so he could breathe.
Was that the RNLI?
The Royal
National Lifeboat
Boat Association.
Yeah, whatever.
He also made a 12-metre long loaf of bread in a performance.
12-metre long loaf of bread.
Yeah.
You could definitely feed 5,000. So I'm thinking of Jesus for some reason.
It is Easter. We are recording on Good Friday. Perhaps. That's why. Yeah. It maybe I didn't see it in his cookbook though.
Yeah.
And finally, one was when he met Andy Warhol in a hotel in New York.
You mean Andy Warhol?
So, and apparently Warhol gave him a Marilyn screen print, and Dali took it, looks at it, and weed all over it. And Andy Warhol was quite delighted by that.
Well, you would be, wouldn't you?
If I did a picture and you weed over it, I would not be happy.
Yeah, but you're not Andy Warhol. Or should I say, Andy Warhol? Sorry, I don't know what that is. Yeah, so you would be upset if I weed on your picture you gave me?
Yeah, I would.
Well, even if it was a screen print of Marilyn you gave me?
Yeah, but the thing is most of my work's watercolour, so you would
let's
actually
say
ruin it.
You gave me a watercolour of Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, but you would be ruined because if you wee on watercolour, it tends to make it run quite badly.
Yeah, but it's Kylie Minogue.
Yeah,
surely it's like there must be some.
Are we really talking about weeing on Kylie Minogue?
Well, no, on a watercolour of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would run.
Yeah, well, is there anything of yours that I could wee on that you'd be delighted by?
Yeah, I've got a couple of pictures of Smurfs. Right. So, Tom.
Yeah.
That ends our date with Dali.
Yeah.
Done because, as I said, he appeared in my dream. So, quite a fascinating guy, you know.
Well, he lived his surrealism, didn't he?
Yeah. So, thanks for listening, and please, if you can subscribe and share the podcast, that'd be great.
We don't have subscribing though, do we? It's like we don't need to subscribe.
iTunes, Spotify, yeah, definitely. Please subscribe. Yeah, you do.
No, listen's what you do. Listen, please listen.
No, and subscribe.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm not having this not subscribing business. No, this is what all podcasts say, Tom.
I know, but it doesn't make any sense that all podcasts say this, and it gets my goat up.
Oh, well, I'm saying subscribe. You're saying you can say something different. You can say what you want to listen.
Yeah, please listen to our pod.
And subscribe. Right. and also, if you can give us a review, that'd be fantastic. 5-star review. We're on Twitter quite a lot now. And what's the Twitter address, Tom?
Twitter.com/mod art is rubbish.
Again, I always have to stress, I think mod art is very good, and I like Lambrettas. I like the drawings and the artwork that are on some scooters.
Excellent.
Yeah. Also, we've got a Facebook page. What's the Facebook address, Tom?
Facebook.com/modern art is rubbish.
We love hearing from you, and if you want to get in touch with us directly, we've got an email address, which is info@modernartisrubbish. That's info@modernartisrubbish.com. Yeah. And also, it does cost us to do the podcast. Some people like to support us by heading over to our Patreon page and making a small monthly donation, and that really helps. And the address is
Patreon.com/modern art is rubbish.
And I think it's just goodbyes, isn't it?
Okay. So
That's just byes.
okay, bye.
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 Bye. Bye.